Chiefs Kingdom, what's going on? Today's show, we're going to talk about 5 players that I think Brett Veach should cut to help save some cap space in 2024. We appreciate you watching. As always, I'm your host, Jace Andrews, and I'm telling you, these 5 guys are ones that you would expect. For the most part, there's one in there that you may murder before, but we'll talk about that later. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I will say this. If the Chiefs make a move, we'll got you covered. They cut somebody, they sign somebody, doesn't matter. We got you covered right here on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. So with that subscribe button, because I promise you, you're not going to find anywhere that you're going to get this coverage. So hit that subscribe button right down there, down below. Little red button that says subscribe. Click that. It'll turn gray. I'd certainly appreciate it. And before we get into today's show talking about the 5 cut candidates, I do have 2 things I want to mention at the top of the show that are affecting the Kansas City Chiefs. They did sign assistant head coach, special teams coordinator Dave Toub to a contract extension. Obviously, this follows the contract extension of Coach Spags. Now they've locked up pretty much every single coach. Matt Nagy's still on contract. They've got their DC on contract. Now they get the special teams coordinator on contract as well. On top of which, you may have saw the tweet about Chris Jones. I want to put it on here and kind of just talk you through it in just a second. So the Chiefs have picked up the option on all-pro defensive tackle Chris Jones. Contract retraining the right to franchise tag him and paying him $4.25 million that he earned in incentives. So this doesn't really mean too much. All this means is that they're going to pay him that $1 million, which he was already owed. He had the incentives. He was owed that, which that is what the point is. Now, I will say, hopefully this is going to continue into contract negotiations and potentially signing Chris Jones to hopefully a long-term contract, or at least for the next years. We'll have to see, though, but for right now, it doesn't really mean anything. I know if you've seen it and you're like, oh, well, they sign him? No, they just agreed to pay him, which the money they already agreed to pay him. So kind of an interesting thing, but they picked up the option. That's all it means. Now let's get to cuts. Let's kind of talk about, all right, the basic thing of this show. And before I do that, I do want to kind of tell you that I'm not necessarily suggesting the Chiefs make every single move. I'm not telling you they should cut every single one. But there are some options available, and they could pick maybe 1, 2 of these guys to cut that could really help free up some cap space and potentially allow the Chiefs to have some room to sign maybe T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, or maybe some other wide receivers that we've talked about earlier on in the season. All right, so let's start with the cap space. It's around $15 million. Now, you're seeing that number and you said, Jace, wasn't it $24 million just like 2 days ago? It was. Unfortunately, now, all those incentive bonuses have kicked in. So why did it go down? Well, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. That's why. That forced a bunch of incentives to kick in. It allowed for Mahomes to kind of get some incentives. It allowed for Chris Jones to get a heck of a lot of incentives. And so that incentive base is going to be taken off the 2024 cap space. What does that mean? Well, it just lowers your cap space a little bit, which, 24 to 15 is not a little bit, but at the same time, they already kind of expected that, so hopefully restructuring a couple contracts, maybe cutting these guys that I'm about to tell you about, yeah, that would hopefully help. Speaking of which, let's get to the first one, the obvious one, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Now, I know he had a great finish this season. He caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But listen. Do we not forget what happened in the regular season? Do we not forget this guy was terrible? His PFF grade, 52.1. That's 119th out of 128 NFL wide receivers. If they were paying him, 2, 3, 4, 5 million, okay, that's fine. He played better at the back half of the season. We'll keep him. Here's the problem. You're not paying him that amount. You're paying him $12 million. So if you cut him, guess what? You're saving that in your cap space because, well, that contract is at the point where you cut him, it's all going back to you. I understand this guy had a good finish this season. I understand he made some clutch catches. But we cannot forget about the drops that happened. At the least, you have to restructure this because this is not just going to happen. You cannot allow a guy who made drop after drop after drop to then get paid at $12 million the next year just because he caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl and a couple of key passes in the playoffs. That just can't happen. I asked this question, though. Restructure, cut, whatever. Are you cutting MVS? I want you to type C for cut, type K for keep. Are you attached to what he did in the postseason? Or do you remember what happened in the regular season and think, you aren't fooling me. I'm not going to risk that again. I'm not paying you that amount of money to just drop the ball. Let me know. C for cut, K for keep. Let's go to the next guy. What a surprise. It's another wide receiver. It's Skyy Moore. And I got to be honest, I really had high hopes for Skyy Moore this year. I thought that he could potentially be the wide receiver one. I thought he could really boost up and make a lot of amazing plays. But that's just not what happened. Instead, he just looked like this all season. Which, I mean, his fault, not his fault. Had some injuries. Either way, he's just never lived up. And here's the thing. You're going to save $823K if you cut him pre-June 1st. But if you wait, you cut him post-June 1st, you're saving $1.3 million, which may not seem like a lot, but when the Chiefs is the way they are, trying to penny pinch in some ways and get as much money in the cap space as possible, well, guess what? That's a good amount. He's just never panned out. I think that's the ultimate thing here. As much as I want to sit here and say, oh, just wait, it's going to come. Oh, just wait. Soon enough, he'll get it fixed. Oh, just wait. I can't wait anymore. It's been 2 years. Rashee Rice, who was a second-round pick just like him, he's already played better, and it's 1 year in. I like Skyy Moore. I like what he could bring, but ultimately, he's never panned out. And so, adios. The third cut candidate, Justin Reid. Before you try to crucify me, listen, I know it seems bad. I know we love Justin Reid. I know he has the prowess that he is a great safety. But I may burst that bubble for you here in just a second and tell you why it would be a good thing to cut or trade Reid in 2024. But before that, make sure you're getting your prize picks in. I know that the NFL season is over, but that doesn't mean prize picks is stopping. They still got a load of stat types and sports to pick from. And right now, you can get the MLB season going. They've got NBA with the All-Star break. They have a bunch of stuff with, guess what? PGA's got it out there. Now, if you don't know what Prize Picks is, it's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game, and you can combo projections across all the leagues that I just mentioned. Plus, if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS, you're going to get a first deposit match of up to $100. Now, told you about MLB season. Well, that's upon us, so I put in some MLB picks. I've got some season-long picks here. Mr. Shohei Ohtani, Los Angeles Dodger, $700 million contract. You better hit 40 home runs. Dear gosh, for that amount of money, I expect you to be hitting them to the moon. Juan Soto playing in the Little League park that is Yankee Stadium. Yeah, he's going to get more than 40 home runs. They hit him 5 feet past the infield. It's going to go over the wall. Bobby Witt Jr., our guy, big contract extension in Kansas City. I'm going to go more on his hits for the year. Played well last year. Now that he's got his bag, I kind of expect him to play even better. And then Adolis Garcia, listen, coming off a World Series victory. This guy hits tanks. Unfortunately, his average, not so great. But his tanks, yeah, they're pretty fiery. So, heck, you can go put these same exact picks in right now on Prize Picks and get that $100 deposit match by using it at prizepicks.com/CLNS and that code CLNS. Plus, Prize Picks is super awesome. They've got a ton of different deals. They've got Taco Tuesday where they're discounting select players. So make sure you're going in there, checking them out. We're going to put that link in the comments in the description of this video. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Shout out to Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, time to burst your bubble. I know you're all killing me in the comments saying, Jace, why are we cutting Justin Reid? Well, this is why, man. Listen, I love the guy. I think he's great. I think he could be a top-tier safety, but not for what he's getting paid at $12 million plus. He was targeted 120 times over the past 2 years. He's allowed 76 receptions, 771 yards, and 7 touchdowns, which isn't bad, but it's not great. What's bad is his coverage grade. 52.8. Yikes. That was 83rd in the NFL of 94 safeties. We talk about the Chiefs having the #2 defense in all of the National Football League, yet their safety is 83rd? All right. Plus, his Super Bowl PFF grade was 54.2. That was worse than his season total, surprisingly. Now, I say this all because Reid, well, $12 million is what you would say if you cut him. And we saw what Mike Edwards did this year. I really liked what we saw from him. Brian Cook should be back next year. Shamari Connor played great, the rookie out of Virginia Tech. If you're saving $12 million, I kind of think you cut him. I hate to say it. I love the guy. But if it saves you that amount of money and your safeties are already doing great, what's the point of keeping him? Now, you may be saying, Jace, you're an idiot. Why are you cutting Justin Reid? Well, now's your time to shine because you can let me know and hate on me in the comment section. Would you cut Justin Reid? Type Y for yes. Type N for no. Whether or not you like it or not, it's a possibility. We've seen it in a couple places. Just kind of be prepared for it. I love him. I think he's a great guy. He fits well in Kansas City, but I just don't think he's worth $12 million that you would save. That's just my take on it. Y for yes if you're cutting him, in for no if you're keeping him. I say this all, at least restructure his contract. Listen, if you cut him, cool, whatever, you could trade him, but you got to restructure that contract. You got to make sure that that money is pushed out some way, somehow. Obviously, though, there's not much left on his contract, so how exactly do you do that? Well, you extend him maybe? You try and figure out something. So I just don't really see a way where the Chiefs just leave that $12 million sitting there with a guy who is probably right now, I would honestly say if you re-sign Mike Edwards, he's your third best safety. I would take Brian Cook over him. I would take Mike Edwards over him. Shamari's a rookie, and he's still pretty close to Justin Reid. And the way that Shamari played in the playoffs was fantastic. Had the best PFF grade of any player in the Buffalo Bills divisional game. That's what Shamari's done. Let's continue on here, though, and go to one that y'all probably agree with me on and probably like. Kadarius Tony. This guy's got to go. I don't know why he's still on the roster. This dude was wearing slippers in the freaking Super Bowl. You don't know what I'm talking about? Follow me on Twitter at Jace Andrews _. But this guy just never has done well. Even with the Giants, when his rookie year, he played 39 games and had 420 yards. It's never worked out for Kadarius Toney. This year, 27 receptions, 169 yards, and 1 touchdown. Listen, looking at this, the stats are one thing. They aren't great. But when you add that, how bad he played, to everything else that happened this year, that's where it gets a little testy. First one. What are you doing, Kadarius? You're offsides. Whether it's called or not often, I don't care. You're offsides. This is taught in Little League, Pop Warner football. Don't stand on the line. He stood on the line. Took away one of the greatest plays that ever would have happened in football history. Oh, but that's just one play, Jace. How about we go to week 1? This was a pick 6. See that ball? That's in his hands, basically. That's a pick 6. You see Brian Branch right here? Yeah, he's about to pick this. I just don't get it. On top of which, that's another one. This was also a pick. Kadarius Toney has it hit off his hands, off his helmet, and into someone else, and you see Patrick Mahomes' frustration. I just do not see a way Kadarius Toney is on this team next year. I wanted him to be good. He had the great moments that he had in Super Bowl 57, but it's time to let go. Oh yeah, I'm not even mentioning, what about the Instagram Live ordeal? What happened there? He tried to backtrack it and say, oh, I was talking to the Giants fans. They were in the chat. You can't see that. Okay, but when were the Giants lying about your injury? I just don't get the process of it, even if it were the Giants fans. Why are you talking about that on Instagram Live a couple days before the Super Bowl and literally hours before the AFC Championship game? What are you doing? I don't get it. Whatever. It's fine. He'll be cut. Next guy, also a guy who I just think will be cut. You probably really don't know too much about him. Lucas Niang, the offensive tackle, didn't really play that much this year, but guess what? You cut him, you save about $1 million of cap space. So that's the good news right here with Niang. I think it's a clear sign that you're going to cut him. You probably don't know too much about him because, well, he didn't play too much. He had a 59% snap. 59 snaps, not 59 snap percentage. He played 59 snaps this year. That's it. His PFF grade was below 50. Listen, this is an obvious cut. I mean, Niang, I know he was liked by Brett Veach for a certain period of time, but it's kind of one of those things of Skyy Moore just never really panned out, never really worked. I would honestly be surprised if it wasn't cut. I think that's the thing that I got to hit here is if he is not cut, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's really going on with Brett Veach. So that's just the way I see it, though. Maybe they keep him. Maybe the offensive line is struggling and they want him to be in depth. Maybe they sign him on a practice squad after they cut him. I don't freaking know. But I'll tell you what, we got you covered either way. What happens, doesn't matter. We'll have it right here on the Chiefs Sport by Chat Sports. YouTube.com/Chiefs TV. We got you covered. Hit that subscribe button. Or you're watching on your laptop, you're watching on your phone, scroll down there. Little red subscribe button. If it's red, click it. It'll turn gray. You're subscribed. You're part of the best Chiefs Kingdom on YouTube. We appreciate you as always, but for now, peace out.